Hey everyone, welcome to Office Hours with Cloud Posse, where we discuss the latest DevOps news, AWS announcements, and Terraform insights, all sourced from our sweetops community, plus a live Q&A you can't find anywhere else. It's December 14th, 2020, no, December 2014, January 14th, 2026, and I'm your host, Eric Osterman. Real quick, I'm the founder and CEO of Cloud Posse. Cloud Posse sells AWS reference architectures that get you production ready in just 2 weeks. So if you're curious to learn more, just go to cloudposse.com. So, how can you maximize today's session? First off, our format's very informal. You can engage as much as you'd like and ask questions. If you're curious about any of our open source tools like Atmos, this is a great place to ask. For those in the recording, we host these calls live, so don't miss out. Just join us live by registering at cloudposse.com/office hours. Again, cloudposse.com/office hours. Now, I do have one ask. If you find any portion of today's session valuable, share it with your team. Head over to youtube.com/cloudposse where you'll find the recording in just a few hours. So with that said, let's dive into the current announcements. Oh, is my screen not being, yeah, it is being shared, right?
Yes, we see it.
All right, perfect. I got to do this layout here. Oh, and I'm covering everything. Let me move myself. All right. So first one was a pretty serious level 10 CVE remote code execution for N8N, Nathan. Um, this is like self-hosted Zapier, if you're not familiar with it. What makes this particularly scary is any service like this, for it to function, has connectivity to every service. So I don't know to what extent this could be exploited to leverage those credentials that you had configured in Nathan, but doesn't sound good. Anybody know more about this CVE? I guess an authenticated
Do you
user.
know
So yeah, if
the attack? Do you know was was it prompt injection?
I don't know what the nature of the attack was. I didn't get a chance to dig into it. Yeah. But I happen I never actually used it, but I happen to be in like a Facebook group because I've always been curious about the workflows here, and it's grown in popularity, especially with the advent of AI. And so wouldn't be surprised if it was something with that. Next one was, oh yeah, a public service announcement. Just so Cloud Posse, we have hundreds of repositories. We've been over the last 6 months to a year working tirelessly to bring a lot of functionality that has been in other parts or other repos into a project we call Atmos. And the result of that is that two repositories, build harness and packages, we're planning to deprecate those. Now, if you've been involved in the Cloud Posse ecosystem for the better part of the last 10 years, you've seen these repositories, and they were everywhere. So build harness started out as a collection of, make files that we used at the time when Make was pretty popular for even infrastructure. I know it's the OG, right? Linux kernel and everything's been compiled that way. We thought you could do a good job with infrastructure. Well, we have had a mea culpa on that, and that's why we created a tool called Atmos. You'll hear me talk a lot about it on office hours. And basically, Atmos has made redundant a lot of the functionality we once sought to get out of that build harness. One of the things we used the build harness for was automated generation of docs, but now we can generate docs in Atmos itself. So it can consume any YAML or JSON files. It knows how to read Terraform code, and it can help you generate your technical documentation based on a Go template format. So if you've been relying on build harness for README generation for any reason, or you aren't doing README generation but are curious how we do it at Cloud Posse, that's how. So if you go to Cloud Posse, any of our repositories have a nicely structured README like this. The only way we could scale that at hundreds of repositories is with template generation, and that's what we use to do that, is the docs generation. The other th notice about let's see if I can get back to build harness here. We've also used to use build harness for other parts of CI, but again, all of that stuff has been moving its way into Atmos itself. Oh, here's a simple example showing you how to use docs generate, for example, to generate your README documentation. You can specify a template URL. It could be a remote URL like we have here, or it could be or it could just be a local file, like in your .github folder. The other repository we are going to be archiving is packages. So for I don't know, 7 years, I guess it looks like or 8 years, we've been maintaining a GitHub repository of popular DevOps packages, tools that we've come to depend on. We were basically redistributing those packages, those open source packages under RPM, Debian, and Alpine. And I think that was a great story back in the day when we also relied on something else called Geodesic, which is a toolbox container, like a dev container. But it's been a lot of work maintaining this for relatively little ROI. And more often we find packages that are breaking. We have to go in and update those. We've been maintaining, I guess, at this point, over 6,000 pull requests. So over 1,000 pull requests a year or so. And yeah, that's going away. But that's going away too by by Atmos. So late last year, we released Atmos Toolchain. Atmos Toolchain is the ability to install all the versions of standard packages that you depend on. This piggybacks on the Aqua registry system. So there's hundreds of packages available through that. And why this is special is we do all these things to scratch our own itch, right? So as a professional services company that delivers repeatable solutions to customers, those customers are in enterprise environments. They're running Windows, Linux, Mac, you name it, different environments. And you need a common way of installing things in all of those environments. And the URLs change for those, the binaries change for those, architectures change for those. So we needed a way to easily install those across all the operating systems, and so that we can make that initial cold start very easy. And that's what you get with Atmos Toolchain. Not only that, if you've heard of TFEnv or TofuEnv or ASDF or any one of the 50 different ways of installing tools out there, yeah, we're piling on. Yeah, we're adding one more, but there's a big difference. All those tools do one thing, and you need 10 other tools to do the rest of your job. We're trying to bring all of that into one umbrella to reduce some of the insanity of nesting or combining all of those tools together. And that's what Atmos does. It brings workflows with custom commands, with Terraform support, Packer support, Helm file support. Soon we're going to have custom command support. So you can define your own opinionated workflows inside of Atmos. And all of those things, like in order to function, you need those tools installed. So that's why we brought Atmos Toolchain to Atmos so that it can automatically install those tools. Very cool thing was just in a demo I saw yesterday, one of our engineers did. In one shot, running Atmos Terraform plan, it can download your root module. It can authenticate with your cloud. It can install OpenTofu. It can automatically provision your Terraform backend. It can run Terraform init and then run the Terraform plan in one command, Atmos Terraform plan. And you don't even need to know the name of the thing you're planning or the stack that is located in, because if you forget to specify it, it'll prompt you. So if you haven't checked out Atmos lately, definitely, I need to do more demos on these calls, but it's come a very, very, very long way. Any questions on the deprecations? Any questions on Atmos toolchain, Atmos in general?
Not a question. I would just say that the package repo was a huge help at a time when I was, trying to standardize some stuff. So, I mean, Atmos toolchain looks awesome, but yeah, just a shout out that saved so much time in the past. So much.
Thank you. I appreciate it. I felt really bad towards the end here because we haven't really been maintaining it, but I'm really glad that it has paid dividends over the years here.
For sure.
We're not going to shut it down right away, but yeah, if you know anybody using it, please spread the word, and they should definitely check out Atmos toolchain. Um, we will be providing more documentation on this, and I don't want to do a rug pull. There's been a lot of bad blood, you could say, lately. Some open source projects just yanking Helm charts, yanking binaries, yanking things out. So we are not doing that here, but we're just getting the word out there. So don't start anything new using build harness. Don't start anything new using packages. And we're going to be providing more documentation on migrating that. Somebody had their hand up. Michael?
Yeah. Quick question about the backend for toolchain. Is it like brew on Mac OS, or does it install the native tool? Or just want to
Well, that's a
look
great
into that.
question. And that's another thing we wanted to solve. So package managers are always optimizing for something. If you talk about brew, I think it's really good at installing predominantly on Mac, although I think there's ways you can use that on Linux even these days. And it's very easy for others to provide their own taps for their own packages. But I don't believe Brew by itself solves, for example, how do you run multiple concurrent versions of Terraform and have basically the TFN functionality. The other thing is that Brew, like I said, is still something else you have to install, and it doesn't work consistently whether you're on Mac, Windows, Linux, and so forth. So that's why what we did with toolchain was one of the requirements that we had going into this was when you run a workflow, you want the tools that workflow depends on to get automatically installed. So you depend on TF-Lint, install that. You depend on OpenTofu, install that. You depend on Chekhov or any one of the other 600 DevOpsy tools or things out there. Install it on demand when you need it. We wanted that to work the same way with what we call custom commands. So Atmos has this concept where you can extend it very easily just by defining the commands in the configuration here, like this. So here you can extend Atmos with your own commands. And why that's nice is you can just run one command, you can just run Atmos -- help and understand all the tools you use or all the commands or all the functionality you want to expose to developers. And those might depend on other things. Maybe it depends on the AWS CLI. Maybe it depends on, like I was mentioning, TF-Lint or Chekhov or any one of these other tools. And rather than document, hey, if you're on Windows, run this command. If you're on Linux, run this command. If you're on or Mac OS or whatever, run this command. WSL, run this command. Why don't you just install the command for me right away for my architecture, and it just works. But not only that, we have unique problems in what we do, which is that, well, we want to burn in. We're going to upgrade Terraform to the latest version, but we're only going to do that in lower environments. And higher environments like production are going to stay pinned to another version. So now you need concurrent versions of a package installed at the same time. This is where a lot of package managers fall short. And that's why we built that into Atmos natively. So you can say this component in this stack is using this version of Terraform, while this component in this stack is using this version of OpenTofu. And this component is using a local exec. So it needs the AWS CLI installed. So let's get that automatically installed. And how do we get that to work regardless of your operating system and architecture? So to answer your question directly, no, it's does not shell out to brew. It is not trying to integrate with your package manager. It is trying to create a sandbox of binaries for this environment that you're working with that is stable and consistent. That was also one of the things we tried to solve with packages was that repo we're archiving. We came up with a way of allowing you to install packages at multiple versions concurrently, but we had to hack around how operating systems do that, or operating system package managers do that. And yeah, just not that easy. So definitely check out Atmos registry or Atmos toolchain, which supports every package under the sun. If you don't want to use Atmos, you can always use Aqua. Aqua is our inspiration. Aqua is a great open source tool, has lots of traction as well, but they publish a public YAML registry of all packages. So we tapped into that. We wanted to actually use Aqua directly, but Aqua didn't provide a stable public SDK for us to use in Atmos. So we implemented a subset of the support of Aqua in Atmos. But Aqua is a good example. Here's a package manager, but it's optimized for how do I install the tools so that they work in my shell versus Atmos is optimized for how do I install the tools so all my workflows, all my custom commands, every time I run Terraform, or how do my users not even have to know what commands to install and everything just works. That's what Atmos toolchain does. All right. Can I see? T-Rave, did you have your hand up earlier? I forget if I said, okay, that was Michael then. All right. All right, so that was those deprecation notices. Fine-grained permissions for artifact metadata. So this is pretty nice. I'll be honest that I did not even realize some of this metadata was available through the API. Let me explain what this is solving. So Artifacts is a API endpoint on GitHub that you can leverage in your GitHub actions. You often just use GitHub/artifacts as the GitHub action to push and pull artifacts to that endpoint. What's nice about that endpoint is you can use the automatic permissions model inside of your GitHub action workflows that gives you the equivalent of like an AWS STS token, a short-lived GitHub token, right? That's only valid for the duration of that job executing on GitHub Actions. Now, the scopes that used to be supported were just read and write. So you could read anything about that artifact, including the artifact itself and the metadata, or you could write. And write meant you could also delete the artifact as well. What this change does is add a third level of permission, which is this metadata that you see here, name, digest, version, status, logical environment, physical environment, and cluster and deployment name are now controlled by a separate ACL governing artifact metadata, and that can be read or write. Why this is nice is now you can have a process that can have permission to update the status of the metadata related to an artifact. Was this artifact deployed? And then it can update these fields without that process also being able to consume that artifact. This is interesting from a Terraform perspective. Minus the fact, well, yeah, so this is interesting from a Terraform perspective, provided you don't provide contents read for your artifacts, and then you could probably find a way to store your Terraform plan files as artifacts. And then when that plan file is deployed, you could probably update the logical environments and physical environments where that plan was deployed. What I learned from this was I didn't realize these three metadata options existed: logical environment, physical environment. I only knew of deployment name and tags. So, any feedback on this? Michael, you shared this one. This was in the office hours Slack channel. The call for applications to become an AWS community builder is open now. I think it expires in about a week on the 21st of January. Michael, are you a community builder?
I am not a community builder. It was an aspiration of mine a while back when I was doing much more AWS focused content. I'm all over the map these days, so I don't
Hmm.
focus just on AWS per se. But yeah, I just wanted to share that with the community to put it out there if there are folks that are working in AWS, maybe sharing stuff on LinkedIn, YouTube, X, wherever you are. And I don't even think you have to be like super popular per se or super followed on social media or something like that. But I will say opportunities like this are good if you do want to do more in AWS, because a part of being a part of the community is you get like credits or opportunities to see tools before they release them, and you could talk about them or share your experience, that type of stuff. So it's just like it's an opportunity to get more involved or deeper focus into AWS if you want it. So yeah, I just thought I would share that with the folks here, because I mean I know a lot of folks here are AWS practitioners. So there you go.
Yeah, no, Matt Gowie, I think he's part of this, and he was part of that the road to reInvent or something, and they
Yeah, I need
participated.
to go back and watch that
Yeah,
to see
yeah,
how it all
yeah.
turned
I haven't
out.
done that. I need to do that. Yeah. All right. So that's that. Thanks for bringing that up. Um, another update from Cloud Posse. So we've been doing a lot of ECS engagements, and for the last I would say 6 months, we've been noodling on how best to do that. Around November or so, I think we talked about a new strategy that we had implemented for ECS on deploying apps on ECS with Terraform and Atmos. A lot of things have changed in the landscape since we did our first implementations of ECS. And what we're trying to do here in this repository is show how easy it can be, especially when you combine it with Atmos. And there's some things here I'd like to point out that I think are nice best practices these days. There's still some things that we need to add to this. Things are moving so fast; there are constant improvements. But I'll save that for the next time I go over this. I also want to do a live demo of this as well on office hours. I've been meaning to do. What we've done is we've reorganized this to make the entry point here of this example simpler. So at the root here, you have a Atmos configuration file that sets up the defaults of how this works. One of the interesting things here is you can see that we have the identities defined here. What's neat about that is when you follow this pattern, you can use this in CI just as easily as you can use this natively as a developer. So when I'm, as a developer, run Atmos, I am prompted with selecting the identity that I want to use to run this. Other things that stand out is I talked about us deprecating the build harness. One of the nice things that you can do in Atmos is extend it. So here we're adding two commands to the Atmos configuration, up and down, that just call Docker compose on your Docker file. So then locally developers can just run one command to bring up that app locally, one command to bring it down. But all they need to know is that I run Atmos. So it's documented under Atmos. When I run Atmos dash dash help, I'll see up as a command, I'll see down as a command, and those things available. The other best practice that we've started practicing at Cloud Posse is every folder should have a README. So when I go into app, What is this? Okay, so this is the test application that we're delivering as part of the ECS app. Shows some endpoints you should be aware of, variables that can be passed. The purpose of this is just for demonstration purposes. In this case, it's a very simple Go HTTP service that we use for demonstrating deployments. And if we go into the GitHub folder for workflows, then documenting what those workflows are, what is the sequence diagram of how that works, of how these different deployments work. And the cool thing that we did as part of this V2 of ECS deployments is added support for preview environments. And preview environments turned out to be pretty easy once we got everything natively into Atmos. And what I like about this here is it's a very simple workflow that you can probably digest in about 60 seconds what's going on. The other crazy thing is a lot of this stuff is actually not even necessary anymore. All of this here can just be deleted because Atmos natively supports ECR authentication. The way we handle Terraform outputs here, we don't need bash foo anymore. We can just literally run Atmos Terraform output, specify the format as env, and it'll output the env format. So you can consume those outputs from Terraform in your other steps or jobs in your workflows. And this all here is made possible to deploy ephemeral preview environments by setting the PR number environment variable here and consuming that in the stack configuration. So that's the other thing here. A quick tour of Atmos. Here's a simple architecture deploying in the ECS task with Atmos. The structure we recommend is like a Terraform folder representing everything that you're deploying that way. A folder of components. These are your Terraform root modules. So in this case, we assume an ECS cluster exists somewhere. The ECS cluster lifecycle is decoupled from our ECS task, our application that we're deploying. So that's why you don't even see an ECS cluster here. That's managed centrally, like in an infrastructure repository. I go into the ECS task here, and this is an example of Terraform code in your repository that you developers can manage. If you don't want to commit this, we have another feature now of Atmos where you can have remote root modules. So that's very nice. You don't have to commit this. And then the stack configuration. So for preview environments, we just defined a stack configuration here, and we add an attribute for the PR number, sourcing the environment variable here. And that ensures that when we deploy this ECS task in the cluster, it has its own task running and its own resources and so forth. The Terraform code is responsible for creating the load balancer attachments and spinning up the task and defining the container definitions. That's the other thing is that we can define the container definitions as well very easily. Let's see where we put those here. Forget. So here we're specifying the container definition in YAML, and then any of these things can be extended in my other app for my other environments. So this is what we're calling the default configuration for this application. And then you go into like dev, and you can override any of those settings for the dev environment. This is the only thing that changes for dev. This is the only thing that changes for prod. And this is how preview environments. So you can see they're more or less the same, but we added attributes here which aren't necessary for the other environments. So that's just a lightning review of some of the updates that we've done to this app on ECS. This is a public repository that you can access on GitHub. Any questions on our ECS strategy? All right. One more thing, I couldn't recall if I had announced this on office hours last week. if you use Algolia, one of the nice things that they've introduced with Algolia is the ability to extend conversational or agentic search through your site. So now we do support that. You can just ask what is a stack, if I could type. And this is wired up with ChatGPT 5.2, searches our site and summarizes that. So you don't have to necessarily know how to search or what to look for in getting started with Atmos. So give that a shot if you've struggled searching or finding things. And backend auto provisioning. I touched on this briefly. Um, uh, Full transparency, what I'm sharing here is under unreleased here, you can see. So we have a lot of stuff. All these things should be released today or tomorrow. We're cutting a release with a bunch of improvements and fixes. But the auto provision Terraform backends on Terraform Init works really well. I was testing this out last night on a demo, and what you can explicitly manage your backends for Terraform with standard CRUD operations like create, update, delete, and read using this. But that we supported. What is new is that we hook on the init lifecycle hook in Atmos. So now if you run a deploy, if you run in a plan, if you run an apply, it will automatically initialize that backend, like actually create the backend that has been configured in Atmos if it wasn't already created. And because Terraform makes it so easy to import resources, if you still wanted to manage that backend that was defined in code in Atmos, but managed in code in Terraform, you can do that by specifying the Terraform bucket in your Terraform code as an import and managing it then that way. So this solves the day zero cold start problem and makes it very quick and easy to bring things up. This is especially nice if you want to expose to developers the ability to iterate on full stacks locally through Terraform on their laptops, but not squash everybody else working on infrastructure. Not everything is suitable for that, obviously, but if they need to bring up their own ECS tasks or databases or even EKS clusters, this makes that a lot easier. They can have their own Terraform state backend, all automatically provisioned. Any questions on automatic Terraform backend provisioning and what that is or how it works? And then lastly, what happened to OpenCode this week? Hey, Ben, you were the one who told me about this, but somebody else, I forget, brought it up before we started this session today. So I thought we can also touch on the whole brouhaha concerning OpenCode and Claude Code.
Yeah, it seems like it's open or not OpenCode. OpenCode had this whole thing where they authenticated with OAuth to Anthropic, so Cloud Code. And it seems like Cloud Code maybe I don't know, maybe there was some way to do this, but I guess I'm still a little fuzzy on all the details. I just read that what I was doing with OpenCode was, I guess, against the terms of service, so stop doing that. Um, so what happened is with Anthropic, there's this like API key usage, which I guess is more expensive and not covered by your monthly plan. So if you pay for the either 20 bucks, 100 or 200 bucks a month for Claude Code, that has its own way of authenticating, and that's very different from using an API key, which has its
Okay.
own rates. And so I guess OpenCode was using their OAuth, which is I don't know, it's somehow using the API endpoint but authenticating with OAuth.
Hmm.
So you're kind of getting around one of their methods of payment. And
Hmm.
so the way to fix that, I guess, is use an API key if you're using, the API endpoint, Um, and it seems like what Claude wants is you use their CLI uh, for writing all the code. And so I don't know. There's a lot of there's a GitHub issue for essentially Claude Code to use to support OpenCode essentially. There's a lot of feedback on that, but all in all, I'm switching back to Claude Code to just their CLI to use the agreed upon terms of service. But it was a fun sort of test with OpenCode, but I can still use OpenCode with like ChatGPT, GPT-5. It's just kind of interesting that how this is all turning around on what you can
Move
and
so
can't do.
fast day to day.
Yeah, it's Anti-Gravity is out by Google. It's a agentic IDE. They have
Did you try it?
yeah, I'm trying it out now as a replacement to Goland by JetBrains. Um,
Really?
yeah, it's
But you wouldn't separate with Golang for anything, but yeah.
I'm not canceling that subscription. I really like it. I'm used to it. All my key bindings are set. And I'm really tired of every VS Code instance having its own key bindings that I got to reset. And I know you can do that. I just haven't set it all up to auto provision. Um, the tab complete relative to Windsurf, Windsurf was faster, but it seems like it's there. And the interesting part about anti-gravity is it seems like it has some window for agentic programming that's similar to Conductor. Um,
Hmm.
so more on that to come. But it, like you were saying, it's between. I started with Claude CLI. It was like, great, this is lovely. Then went to open code because I liked it dispatches, like research this to ChatGPT and then research this to, other models, and then it summarizes it and codes it with Claude. Um, but it's just interesting how the flavor of the month or even week is changing based on
Yeah.
the lay of the land.
There were some recent updates in Conductor that I like. I've been a big proponent of them. I like to talk about the software that makes me happy. But yeah, I think I've at this point over 70 concurrent workspaces on different projects, different levels of maturity. Some of the things that they've rolled out though very recently is this checks. I really like this. So just right here, I can just see if this PR is passing or not. Obviously, this link takes me to the terminal. And then the other thing they did was they do let you switch model here, but when you do, it starts a new tab here. So these tabs are all different context windows or sessions, if you will, within the same work tree. And everything here on the left are different Git work trees. Another nice thing is you can Command K and find whatever you're working on and jump between your workspaces. And they did just add support for the new Chrome integration with Claude Code. I haven't tried that out yet. I really want to try that, as well as they've added support for being now the chat here is context aware of your terminal windows that you have open here. So if you have an error here, you can just talk to Claude about what happened here, and Claude is aware of this in its context.
That is very cool, I have to say.
Yeah, this I was funny, non sequitur. I was running some ads on Facebook, and I can't say that that had a huge ROI, but the one single thing that I think paid for it all was one of those calls with a startup founder who was really interesting and told me about this tool that he had just heard of and tried it out that day, and that was August. No, that was like July last year, and I don't think I've gone to bed before 1 p.m., 1 a.m. because of it. So it's addictive. All right. Any other topics we can discuss today? Let's see here. It was my window. All right, let's check the Zoom chat here. The fork for. Oh, okay. So this fork is was I saw somewhere I saw that I guess they had added support for using the SDK, but this is a fork that added support for the SDK.
Yeah, so oh my open code is like it uses open code, it uses all these other agents that you can configure.
Hmm.
And it was, I think, using a Claude like OAuth plugin
Hmm.
or so I forget. I don't know. I never really looked into it on how it authenticated, and that was a problem. So then they made this fork that essentially is yeah, that's all the I think all the plugins and stuff. But they added this fork that essentially just uses the Claude SDK as a workaround so that it is compliant. Um, I don't know. I could use it, but I
Well,
just
I'm sure that's all honestly Claude wanted in the end. It wasn't probably a jab at OpenCode itself,
I
but
don't think it is. I think it's
yeah.
just, you know, if there was a workaround to get like API rates with your subscription, yeah, that's a problem, right? Like obviously
Yeah.
no one wants people going around their business model. Uh,
Yeah. Man, I tried using their API through Claude Teams and easily blew through multiples of what a Pro Max plan costs. Their API is very expensive. Their monthly subscriptions are quite a good deal compared to what the market rate is.
yeah. I think occasionally so I switched to OpenCode now uses just GPT 5.2 and I think actually for both plan and apply mode. But now I'm back to Claude CLI. I'm still looking, if anyone knows, I'm still looking for plugins or um, whatever, plugin skills, whatever, however they're implemented, for better context, longer
Mhm.
term context, so that when you're deeply, or when you're having your agent deeply think about things, and you're having this long conversation,
Yeah.
eventually it compacts it and eventually forgets things. So I'm hoping to find a way to get
I
around
mean,
that
there's a few of those out there.
file.
I've wanted to set it up, but I've never looked into it. Anyone using one of those context memories, MCPs for Claude Code or
I'm
other?
madly Googling right now because I heard about one that I wanted to try. That was impressed upon me as pretty good. Can't recall the name of it for the life of me, but I'm frantically Googling, and hopefully by the end of the session, I'll share a link here in the chat.
Yeah, please do that. Then Ben, there was another um, project I saw. I was curious about. I haven't checked it out, but it seemed like it was a little bit more terminal based. But had the benefits of Conductor from a UI perspective for managing a large number of terminals. Because that's the problem that I ran into. I for a while I tried going back to the terminal when there were some performance issues way back in Conductor, and I wasn't able to use it. Those have been since resolved. Well, I upgraded my laptop. But the other thing the other thing though is just using a terminal window. But then you have too many terminal windows and it's hard to keep track of what you're doing in each window. So open this superset looked pretty interesting. And here you see they're running open code inside of it. So maybe this is an interesting combination of tools that you can slap together. Superset.sh. I'll put in there.
Give that a shot.
Jeremy White, since you're always testing every single thing out there, have you have you tested Superset yet?
I want to. I was actually it was your fault, Ben. I went and I spent my weekend actually using my open code instead this weekend, and I was really happy with it. I probably could have been the reason why they did the whole thing. Because I man, did I did I use the heck out of it, just goofing off. I've been using BMAT as well. I was very happy with how much it crunches down by using document approaches,
Hmm.
but it's just for massive projects. And so because of that, they've had a lot more tooling around sub agents to reduce context growth, or to let you basically continuously go to new documents. And every time you go to a new document, all of the agents know how to pick up all the leftover work and then change their prompt. So, I mean, I tried going through a whole project, and by the end of it, maybe every time I started a new prompt, it was bumping up to maybe 10,000 tokens, 17,000 tokens. It wasn't bad at all. So I like that. I do want to try superset. I've said it before, I'll say it again. I also recommend trying out with things like OpenRouter. I found that especially with some of these tools like Oh My OpenCode, I found several agents that were a little bit quicker at the different tasks like Oracle and Librarian and stuff like that. So if anybody's still tweaking with that, I'm sure a lot of folks are going over to the Claude Code one. I should probably try Claude Code again, but yeah, sorry, I haven't tested as fast because I've been heads down
You've been
at
working.
Master Point.
Yeah, yeah. What was I gonna say? And then there's obviously Cowork that was just announced this week. People have been talking about. I'm not that ex I haven't been that excited about it. Obviously, I guess this is for regular people, so that's maybe why it's not targeting me. But after trying even like OpenX in the browser, yeah, it just never works well for me. I like the desktop experience. I'm wondering, is this ultimately I guess this has its own ability to do agentic loops and basically self-correct along the way to be something more along the lines of Lovable, maybe, minus the hosting platform. So ordinary people can build software. And Roy is asking if anyone's using the Kiro-CLI and spec files. This did come up last week on office hours a little bit, but not too much. What caught my interest was Spec-Kit, which is by Microsoft, and you can use it with any of these systems to get a similar outcome. And it integrates neatly with, or where was it? With all the major CLIs out there. And gives you then a consistent way of managing your spec files. So I thought that was neat. Haven't started using this particular solution, but been using a manual approach. Jeremy says he was not happy with Spec-Kit way back, but they fixed a lot of that, so he's open to try it again. I thought it was neat how it automatically exposes in each respective tool the slash commands for prompting. So you have a consistent way of
Yeah,
doing
one thing to maybe mention on Spec-Kit and to harp more on what Ben was talking about, I think folks by now have realized that context is the real tax on what you're doing with AI. And Spec-Kit for me, when I originally used it, was good for the first two or three features. And then it
Mm,
kind of just hung down because it was having a tough time if I wanted to iterate on top of those different features. It was loading a lot more
yeah.
context. I think they've worked out some of those kinks. So if you've tried it before and you notice that too, I don't know, it might be much better now.
Yeah.
But that's something to always watch for and iterate on something locally that's small. You'll know it when you hit a bad framework or what the framework needs work, because a little to-do app, if you just do small changes to it, see how fast the context grows.
Okay.
That's my pro tip for folks.
All right. Cool. Any other cool tools you guys came across this past week? Something we should review?
Uh, I played a little bit with AWS MCPs. There is like a huge number of
Yeah, they have a whole GitHub organization for it or something, right?
yeah. So today I integrate the billing and post MCP with OpenCode and ask it for like a reduction cost estimation plan or something like that. And it
Yeah.
it really went well. Yeah, yeah.
Wow. Wow. And there goes every cost, what do you call them? Uh, cap cost optimization platform. There's so many of those.
Yeah, indeed.
I think there's
So one thing
tremendous
on
opportunity using these things together with, your kind of menu of MCP servers to do assessments for clients, especially. I think that has a tremendous potential.
Yeah, indeed. So I want to go back to the debate, open code against cloud code. So the flexibility open code give you to create agents and connect specific MCPs and commands to that agent is unbeatable actually. It's working out of the box and it just MD files. So you write everything as MD files and it just works. So I understand the anger behind why Cloud Max is not supported on open code from people.
Yeah. Any other interesting things, Mohammed, you've been up to in your agentic journeys?
Not yet, but it's like, Alice in Wonderland,
Yeah, right. Going down
My
the rabbit
friend,
hole.
I have a friend who told me you're gonna go crazy from these agents sometime, but yeah,
Yeah.
I'm down the rabbit hole now.
It's just, yeah, it's insane. All right. Well, I think we are out of time for today, pretty much. I guess I will do my little standard outro here. Thanks everyone for your time and participation. If you want to get any of those links, we'll be sharing those in the Office Hours channel in our sweetops community. You can register at slack.cloudposse.com. We'll be posting a recording of this session to our YouTube channel. So if you want to share that with your team or check back on anything we discussed, you'll find it there. If you're ever in need of any support, specifically around Terraform, AWS, any of Cloud Posse's open source, Atmos, we provide lots of support options that fit your time and budget. Go to cloudposse.com/support. Here's how you can get more involved in our community if you haven't already. You can register for our Slack community, cloudposse.com/Slack. You can register for these live office hours and participate. Just go to cloudposse.com/office hours, enter your email, and you'll get an invitation with a Zoom link. We'll be bringing back our newsletter this year. So we've been kind of dormant on that, but we are bringing that back, and it's going to be more opinion pieces by me rather than a regurgitation of just the office hours content, which we used to do. So definitely sign up for our newsletter if you want to get some of those thought leadership pieces from Cloud Posse. And with that, that's all I got, folks. Have a great rest of your week. See you back next week. And Happy New Year if you didn't already hear it from me. Still applies.